What's going on, Raider Nation? If you're done with Pete Carroll and the Pete Carroll Raiders and you don't want him back next season, I think you're going to like today's video. So make sure you click that like button. Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, a new report from ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano, where they break down a bunch of very interesting trending rumors that they are hearing right now, week 12 of the NFL season. A report that they are putting out there is in regards to Pete Carroll and how he could potentially be one and done in Las Vegas. So here's the latest. If you didn't read the article, it's titled NFL Week 12 Latest Buzz, Questions, News, and Fantasy Tips. I'll tell you what, a fantasy to me is moving on from Geno and Pete Carroll. But ESPN reported that Carroll has a better chance to get fired than first-year head coach Aaron Glenn. Reason why I am making this video is because the thought of Pete Carroll getting fired at the beginning of the season, under my impression, was impossible. I was told by multiple good sources, some of you would say probably the best source possible, that Pete Carroll was not going to get fired this season no matter what. But you already know, where there's smoke, there is fire. And there's starting to be a lot of smoke around Carroll being one and done in Las Vegas. Here's what Jeremy Fowler had to say when he was asked about first-year head coaches that could get fired. Carroll is a name to monitor because the Raiders are clearly in rebuilding mode from a roster talent standpoint. At 74 years old, he is in it to win now and to prove that he's still capable of turning around an organization. Those plans aren't meshing. I don't necessarily see him walking away, though he's clearly not getting what he signed up for in January. So to me, I know that there's some smoke right now around Pete Carroll being one and done. And usually what ends up happening for a guy like Pete, who, again, he's got a 3-year deal with a 4th-year option with the Las Vegas Raiders. Usually before you end up firing a coach or respectfully asking him to leave, somebody has to get fired. Tom McMahon has already been fired. And then you look at what the other issues are for the Raiders. I would say Geno Smith is an issue. I would say the offensive line is an issue. Pete Carroll's son. I would say our head coach is an issue, no doubt about it. And the fact that these organizations are not meshing very well right now in terms of the front office and the head coaching gig, I do think that there is a legitimate chance that Pete Carroll is one and done. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But you let me know, will Pete be one and done with the Raiders? Give me a yes, give me a no. This is going to be the ad break, which means there is a comment, okay? This is the number one comment that I want you to go down in the comment section and answer. Give me a yes, give me a no. My answer coming up here after this YouTube ad break. I'm going to sit up here and say at this point, yeah, I think Pete Carroll is going to be one and done. And is it a big chance that it's going to happen? I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know. I think it's legit a coin flip because at this point of a 2-8 Raiders season, I wake up every single day and I go, how can I, as a Raiders fan, have hope? And at this point, I'm going to treat this season like the offseason. I'm going to be a hopeful Raiders fan. I'm going to wake up every day, and I'm going to want to talk about the things that I want to talk about, and I hope that you guys like what I have to say. But at this point, my hope is Pete Carroll is one and done, and I hope he takes Geno with him, and I hope he takes both of his sons with him because I am done with the Pete Carroll Raiders. What's interesting is the amount of money that the Raiders could be spending on coaches that could be fired. And what's crazy is this isn't even mentioning the GMs that Mark Davis is also currently paying. So Antonio Pierce was making $8 million. Josh McDaniels was getting 10. Gruden got 10. Pete's somewhere around 15 to 16 million based on what I'm being told. And then Chip Kelly, highest paid offensive coordinator in the National Football League. I'm not a math guy, but when you add up all those numbers together, I mean, you're paying almost $50 million. $50 million in fired coaches. And you know what? You have nothing to be able to show for it because the decisions Mark Davis has continuously made has put him in this situation. But you know what? I don't care that Mark's got to pay it. Quite frankly, I think when you make a deal like Mark made, I'm not going to say he made a deal with the devil moving to Las Vegas, because every time he asked for help in Oakland, California said no, where Las Vegas said, hey, whatever you want to do, we're going to be able to do it. But if anybody out there thinks that $50 million, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But if you think $50 million is like an unbelievable amount of money for Mark Davis, I really encourage you to see the profit that Mark has made since Las Vegas has gone, or since the Raiders have gone to Vegas. The Raiders went from an organization being valued at $500 million just a few years ago in Oakland to now somewhere around $7 billion. I don't know what $50 million looks like, but I know for a fact that $50 million is chump change. It's pennies to Mark Davis. But I'll also say this, Mark, you made the decision to go to Las Vegas. If you're going to charge the prices that you're going to charge, if you're going to do the things that you're going to do, with all due respect, I don't give a shit if you're paying $50 million and fired coaches, because you still aren't putting the right people in charge. You are not asking the right people to hire your next head coach. My name is Mitchell Renz. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. You got my phone number. You know how to get in contact with me. If you want to stop firing bad coaches, you should listen to me, because there's a reason why I said Pete Carroll is the riskiest hire that Mark Davis could do. And we're sitting here in a 2-8 season seeing exactly why I said that. Coming up next here on the show, though, again, I'm going to be a hopeful Raiders fan. And I'm going to tell you why I think Pete Carroll is going to be one and done with the Las Vegas Raiders. You know what's something that's not one and done for me, and something that I do every single day, something that I do every single week, something that I do every single Raiders game day? It's Prize Picks. There's a reason why they're America's #1 fantasy sports app out there. And I was right saying Pete Carroll was the riskiest hire that we could do. You know what else feels really good? Being right on Prize Picks. And you can keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you can cash in. Prize Picks puts their members first, which is something that I wish the Raiders would do with their fan base. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. If you're trying to join me and millions of other users, you can roll with my lineup if you want. This link is going to be available down in the comments, down in the description. I told y'all going into every game from now on, if it's less, we're going to go less with Genty. Now, rushing attempts, all they do is throw it. I'm going to go less. Receiving yards, hey, I'll go more there. Rushing yards, give me the less, especially with this offensive line going up against probably the best defense that we're going to go up against. Geno Smith, less than 14 fantasy score. And then Shedeur Sanders, I went less on the rushing, more on the INTs, and I wanted to be able to show you what type of money I can make. I put $10 in this lineup. If all 6 of those picks hit, it's 10, turns it into 80. If I get 5 out of the 6, $17.50. If I only get 4, well, you know what? Hey, still put $4 in my pocket. So if you want to download the Prize Picks app today, use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So here's why I believe Pete Carroll is going to be one and done. The first reason is I'm going to call it his blind loyalty to Geno Smith. If Pete's going to sit up there at the podium and if he's going to say that he still thinks that Geno Smith is doing a phenomenal job, go ahead, Pete. At this point, the way that I feel talking to in terms of like telling Pete what to do, telling Geno what to do, telling all these guys what to do, yeah, I feel like I'm talking to a wall right now. And maybe Pete will finally realize that Geno's not the guy in Las Vegas. I'm not saying that he wasn't the guy at one point with Pete Carroll, but clearly Geno Smith is not the guy in Las Vegas. And I know Mark Davis cares about what we have to say. And I know Mark Davis watches this show, and I know that he listens to our program. And Mark, you always know, I love you. I appreciate everything you've done for me. But at the exact same time, I need you to listen up, because we are getting into a really close situation of how bad it was with Josh McDaniels and Jimmy Garoppolo. Quite frankly, I actually think fans hate Geno Smith and this Pete Carroll regime more than the Josh McDaniels and Jimmy Garoppolo Raiders, which is a sad thing because I never thought I would say that out loud. But, I mean, numbers talk, right? And I asked this question, and 2,584 people. It's not tons of votes, but I think it's at least a halfway decent sample size. Is Geno Smith the most hated quarterback or most hated Raiders quarterback since coming to Las Vegas? I think that those numbers are pretty telling. And yeah, there's going to be different opinions, and I get that. But what I want Mark Davis to think about is Geno Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Brian Hoyer. I mean, that is just a laundry list. Derek Carr, right? Like Desmond Ridder. I'm trying to think of all these quarterbacks that we've had since DC left. But my point is the fact that Geno, to 72% of the people, is the most hated. The play's bad, but it's also the way that he's talking and treating Raider Nation. And again, if you believe in nobody is above the shield, then I don't know how the hell you can continue to believe in Pete Carroll. Let's keep it moving here because Geno Smith needs to find his way to get backed into a corner. It's the only way he's going to be able to play well. The other part, though, it's the staff loyalty. And I don't know what Pete's going to do because Pete's going to have a hard conversation to have because Chip Kelly's clearly an issue. Brennan Carroll's clearly an issue. And I would say that there's a lot of coaches on this staff right now that are clearly an issue. But when you talk about the three biggest issues right now that are out of Pete's control, the offensive line, his son's running the show. The offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, sucks. Geno Smith, who is he going to point the finger at? I don't think he's going to point the finger at Geno. I don't think he's going to point the finger at his own kid. I think what ends up happening is he points the finger at Chip Kelly. And if Chip Kelly goes, I don't know how you sit up here and you go, how do we fire our OC? How do we fire our special teams coordinator? And we're also not going to move on from Pete? I don't get it. Let's go to the next reason here of why I think he's going to be one and done. The other day I was live on the Raiders Report, and I said that I got a text message. I don't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday. I'll be honest. My days blend together anymore. But I got a text message, and you can go back and watch the show. I looked over at Chugs, and I said, hey, I'll talk to you about it. I was told that there is some legit front office disconnect. I got obviously a very good source inside of that Raiders organization. And for me to get information, right, again, I'm not saying that I don't want people to look at me as an insider. I'm not an insider. I'm a Raiders fan that has covered this team for 8 years, and I've been able to make connections because obviously we have a loud voice here. But one of the things that I want to talk about is because it's you got to check off certain things. And there was major Raiders rumors. I don't know if y'all missed it. I talked about this on Monday about front office disconnect. So when NFL insiders report something, when Raiders insiders report something, when I get information on something, and when you add all of it together, I'm not saying that you should 100% believe what I'm saying. But what I am saying is think about it if your mom were to tell you something, if your dad were to tell you something, if your significant other were to tell you something. I would believe it. And I do believe that there is a legit disconnect in this front office. A front office that this team is more committed to. They gave John Spytek a 5-year deal. They gave Pete Carroll a 3-year deal. And the way that they are building that front office, they have a very good front office. I know you might not see it right now, but I promise you this. The text message I received was that there is some legitimate frustration inside of that front office based on the way that Pete Carroll is running this team right now. Because I know that frustration is legitimate, and because I know that the front office executives and Spytek and all those guys are safe, and every time I ask, is Pete Carroll's job safe? I don't really get an answer. It seems very similar to when, I was asking about JPJ and I was asking about Christian Wilkins. When you answer one question and you dodge others, it makes me think that I'm poking the right buttons. So my point is there is front office disconnect. And if you didn't see the video that I put out on Monday, go check it out. You know who did watch this video, though? Our Noti gang. And I want to give a shout-out to Infidel, Kat, Daniel, Awol, and Dylan. I appreciate people that hit that subscribe button. I appreciate people that are part of the Noti gang in a 2-8 season. I wish I could really, truly illustrate to you how much it means to me, people that still watch this program, which is why I'm going to keep it going. Don't go anywhere. I promise you this. If you love the Raiders and you want to get this team back on track, I hope that you hit that subscribe button. Nobody's going to keep you up to date and hopefully entertain you the way that we do here. Let's go to the next part of why I think that the Raiders are probably going to move on from Pete and why I think he's going to be one and done. I want you to look at the rest of the season, right? Look at the Raiders' schedule. I don't know when we're going to run into a win. Maybe, like, and I mean it when I say it, because right now we're 2-8. Now, you got an opportunity week 12 against the Browns, who are starting Shedeur Sanders. But if you lose to Shedeur, dude, buckle it up. It's going to be, I'm telling you, fireworks in the media. But then you got the Chargers. You got the Broncos. You got the Eagles. You got the Texans. You got another Chiefs team, and a Chiefs team that's going to be fighting for a playoff spot. Like, looking at that remaining schedule, I don't know how anybody out here thinks that Pete Carroll's going to save his job, or that Raiders fans are going to want Pete to return, because Raiders fans are done with Pete. Raiders fans are done with Geno. Raiders fans are done with Chip. Raiders fans are done with the Pete Carroll Raiders and that coaching staff. I said it before. I'd save Luke Steckel. I'd save McCullough, the running back coach, and I would save Rob Leonard. Those are the three coaches that I would save, because I don't think there's anybody else to save. I like Patrick Graham. Well, based on conversations I've had with people, I don't think PG is going to be back next season. But when you look at that rest of the season, my question to you is, how many games do you think the Raiders are going to win? Right? We're 2-8. In my mind, if Pete Carroll is going to walk in to that room with Mark Davis, Tom Brady, the front office, and all of those guys that are calling the shots, making decisions, like, he's got to be able to prove that he was good enough to win those games. So, again, I'm going to show you this Raiders schedule, and I want you to think about how many games they are going to win. They are 2-8. To me, I look at that and I'm going, man, oh man, you are hoping, and I mean you are hoping to win just a few of those, right? So here's my question. How many games? How many games do you think the Raiders are going to win? To me, the only way that I'm going to be on board with bringing Pete Carroll back is if the 2-8 Raiders, like, 6 wins is where I would want, because we won 4 games last season. So if you're able to at least show me a little bit of improvement, that you were able to get to 6 wins, that is improvement. What we can't have is a team that was bad last season, a team that had 11 overall draft picks, a team that was top 2 in salary cap space, a team that hired a legendary head coach of Pete Carroll, gave the highest coordinator in Chip Kelly, and he gets to go out and get his quarterback. Like, that can't be a recipe for you to get worse. To me, right now, when I look at that schedule, I think you got to hope that the Raiders win 4 games. And there's probably people out there like, Mitch, I don't want the Raiders to win another game this season, because if the Raiders have the number 1 overall pick, maybe we decide to go with Mendoza. The other part of this equation that I really didn't even put on this show, but it's literally popping in my head right now, imagine if you had the number 1 overall pick for the Raiders. Does anybody here have trust that Pete Carroll would go out and draft a Mendoza, would go out and draft a quarterback? Because I don't know if he would, because, again, of that blind loyalty that he has to Geno Smith. And if the Raiders are in that situation, I mean it when I say it, you cannot allow Pete Carroll to continue to dictate how bad this team's going to be. Because I'm serious when I say it, the number 1 reason why the Raiders didn't draft Shedeur Sanders, it's just the truth. They didn't want fans to rally behind Shedeur. They wanted fans to rally behind Geno. Well, Geno's burnt that bridge, Mark. And I don't look at the rest of the season as I'm hoping for Geno to succeed. I'm going to be honest. I'm hoping for Aiden to succeed. Hoping for Kenny to succeed. I'm hoping for the Raiders to succeed. But I don't know how the hell this team's going to succeed. Let's go to the final reason here of why he's probably going to be one and done. And again, with this offensive line, how the hell are we going to win games? He's 74 years old. The main reason why I said Pete Carroll's the riskiest hire that the Raiders can have is because you've been in an organization that has failed to find a head coach, and you failed yet again here with Pete. So now when you hired a 74-year-old guy in Pete, not only do you have to get 1 hire right, you technically have to get 2 hires right. And why would you rebuild with a 74-year-old head coach who's clearly showing you he's trying to win right now? What's even scarier is Pete Carroll is trying to win right now and had 11 draft picks, the second most money in salary cap, and put this team on the field. We cannot afford to have another offseason like that. And a 2026 offseason, it can't be run by Pete, because Pete got everything he asked for this offseason. So how can you look at a guy that got everything he asked for this offseason and kind of a perfect scenario? Again, 11 draft picks, second most money in salary cap space, and this is the result? It's got to stop. So if it was up to me, you go out and you get somebody that can build with John Spytek. And you go, you know what? I made the wrong decision yet again. And Mark, I mean it when I say it. I don't expect you to ever hire me as a GM. I don't expect you to ever hire me as a head coach, OCD. I don't care. But I know this team, and I know this team. And I believe that the front office wants to move on. I know the front office wants to move on. And I hope that you start asking people that know this team better, because everything that we have said here, hell, everything that Raiders fans have been saying since the moment you hired them in February, just goes to show that you're just hiring guys that don't know the roster. And it's so clear from top to bottom. So to me, I think Pete Carroll's going to be one and done. And the number one, I guess I'll say this. Here's why I think Pete Carroll's going to be one and done. His Geno Smith loyalty, it's disgusting. His staff loyalty to Brennan Carroll and Chip Kelly, it's almost like if you're a Pete Carroll guy, you're off limits. Nobody's above the shield. There is front office disconnect. It's been very well reported. The front office wants to build for the future. Pete Carroll wants to win right now. And it's probably because he's 74 years old. And then you got your 2-8. For the rest of the season, you're hoping to win 4 games. In an offseason where Pete Carroll got literally everything he asked for, I don't want him to ruin the 2026 offseason. And maybe the biggest reason why I want him to be one and done, because if you have a chance to draft a franchise quarterback, I don't think Pete would do it because of his loyalty to Geno Smith. And it's frustrating. As you all can tell, I'm frustrated. But you know what? Every single day I talk about the Raiders moving on from Pete Carroll is a good day for me. Because at this point of the season, in a 2-8 year, in the middle of November, I'm going to treat November the way that I do the offseason, as a hopeful Raiders fan. Because I'm so done with the Pete Carroll Raiders. I'm so done being miserable trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with this team. So I'm going to be hopeful. And the most hope that I can get is that Pete Carroll is gone. Because that means Geno's gone, Chip's gone, and Brennan Carroll and Pete Carroll are all gone. That sounds like a win to me.